All right, Gary, welcome to Sasquatch Theory. How are you doing today?
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. Gary, it's a pleasure to have you on the show, and I love talking to people about the Australian Yowie. So, if you would tell me a little bit about yourself, where you're from in Australia, and your Yowie encounters and experiences from the very beginning, and the work that you've done associated with the Yowie topic.
Okay, so my name's Gary Lynn. I've been involved in this topic for quite a few years now. My interest generally started many years ago when I was young. I've always had a fascination with the paranormal, but what I call the real side of the real world, the real world we actually live in. So I've always been interested in cryptids and UFOs and ETs and ghosts and spirits and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't until my later years that I actually started doing something about it. Obviously, growing up, I had experiences, but when you're young and dumb and you have no idea what's going on, it's just another trippy thing that happened. So you just carry on, and it's not till later in life that you then come to find that those experiences you had when you were going camping when you were 14 with your mates, uh, that wasn't just a dingo that was following you through the forest that night. It was clearly something else. So yeah, it pretty much expanded from there. And later on in life, I started to investigate the Yowie world, the Doolagala world, as the Aboriginals call them, Doolagala and Quincan Aboriginal terms. So started checking that out myself. I went to a couple of locations with some good friends of mine, and things happened. Things definitely happened that really altered my way of thinking. Like I was obviously there already to, try and find out what's going on, have an experience. But yeah, things kicked off this one particular night, and from there I ended up getting on to Dean Harrison with the Dean Harrison's Australian Yowie Research or Yowie Hunters, same thing. And I ended up joining the team there. I was with Dean Harrison for a number of years, and throughout that time, the amount of experiences and findings, and even just talking to people with their experiences, encounters, and sightings and whatnot, it just got bigger and better. And it's my drug. It's you can't get enough of it. You want more and more and more, and you have the experiences, and it's not enough. You want more. You want another hit. So it's it just keeps going. So I mean, like these days, I'm off doing my own thing. So I'm still in the scene, but I'm off doing my own thing these days. Part of Australian Yarra Research a little while ago. Still on talking terms, everything's all good. But I've just decided to go my own direction. But basically, like my first experience, actual experience, kicked off a number of years ago. I was with a mate at a location. Um, so I live in the Gold Coast hinterland, Queensland, and yeah, as I said, a mate and I decided to go out to Mount Lindsay, which is on the border of Queensland and New South Wales. Complete novices, had no idea what we're doing, and so we decided to go out there with white light torches. These days we use red light, being that the red light doesn't carry through the forest as much. But we're out there, there's a bunch of novices just flashing torches around, no idea what we're doing, just because the reason being is out there, there's actually painted on the road Yowie Crossing. So it's, because in this particular area there are a lot of reports of sightings. So we thought, why not let's go to this particular location because that's the only one we really knew of. So we thought we'll go out there, check that out, and see what happens. And we went through a couple of times, and a few things that happened, and few weird things. And this one particular night, so this is the one night that I learned. Regardless if it's your phone or an audio recorder, you never press pause. You never stop the recording because basically we got screamed at. So we're at this one spot and things are kicking off. There's weird stuff happening, and my mate he says, I'm pretty sure I can hear vocals further down the road, but me personally, through going to like watch the drags, motocross, the death metal concerts, and that kind of stuff. I can hear perfectly fine, but those finite sounds I can't quite hear as well as other people. So that's what he was hearing. So he was hearing some kind of strange vocal further down the road. So with the right, let's jump in the car. And as I said about the audio recording device, I was using my phone. I pressed pause on the recording. We went down the road about a kilometre. So I think what a mile's at 1.4 kilometres. A kilometre is 1,000 metres, so yeah, a bit less than a mile down the road. And we pulled up, and as soon as we got out of the car, we walked in front of the car. And this particular area is just forest. There's nothing but forest. Yes, there's a road that goes through it, but either side of the road is just dense, thick forest. And probably about 5 meters either side of the road is where the forest starts. We get out of the car, we walk in front of the car. This is, mind you, this is about 11 o'clock at night, I'd say. And within seconds, we got screamed at by something roughly about 10 meters away. And it went from a really deep, guttural, growly, grunty roar to a super high pitch very fast. And it was that loud, you could hear the sound vibration rather your chest cavity. It was incredible, just pumped it. It was awesome. And then over the next probably hour and a half, we then had two other beings coming in from the north and the northwest. And every about 15, 20 minutes, they'd vocalize the hoo-ah, hoo-ah. So we could hear that again every 15 minutes. But every time they do that, they were closer and closer. In the meantime, this one behind us in the forest over there is just walking back and forth. We could hear the heavy bipedal footsteps. And it got to the point where next to those vocals were pretty close, and it just went dead quiet. And as people, both here and over your side of the fence, speak about when the forest goes dead quiet, and it's that quiet you can hear the blood pump in your ears. That's what happened. So once that did happen, then the things just got really weird. And next, all they can put down to is potential infrasound. So if you think of like 1,000 mosquitoes that swarm your head or just buzzing all around your head, but there's no mosquitoes. It's just a weird buzzing noise that just encompasses you. And I had my torch on, but I had the face of the torch into my body, so I wasn't emitting too much light. I walked over to my mate, and I let the torch off my body a bit to let a bit of light glow out. I could see his face because this forest is quite dark, and like we're only standing like 6 feet from each other, but I couldn't see him. Like it's that dark in this forest, and also no moon, that kind of thing as well, that time of the month. And I see his face, and he said the same as me. Like there's nothing. Like there's nothing around us. What is that sound? He's got this stressed look in his face as well. And then he just freaked out. We got to go. So we ended up jumping in the car and we left. And that set the bar pretty high for quite a while, with their own little novice, no idea investigations. I wouldn't even call investigations. 2 guys going in the forest with no idea, just looking around for stuff. So it wasn't until I joined Australian Yowie Research that I actually got to experience things regularly and on hand and going to actual locations, and then also looking for locations, getting to know areas better, and knowing where we should go and so forth. And from there, it just kicked on to many sightings, encounters, experiences, all sorts of stuff throughout, not the whole east coast of Australia, but definitely through Queensland east coast and northern New South Wales east coast, ranges from vocalizations to stick tapping to tree knocking to rock clacking to whistles to growls to grunts to everything you can think of, including all sorts of footprints. That's one thing over in Australia that I find. It's very hard to find a footprint that you can cast because of the Australian terrain. It's very unforgiving. You'll find a foot impression. I've found hundreds and hundreds of foot impressions, and it's clear it's a foot impression. But if you try to cast it, you get nothing but leaves and grass. But when you see it face to face, you can quite clearly see the heel print, the toes, and that kind of stuff. I think out of the hundreds of foot impressions I've found, I think I've cast 5 that were worth casting, and there'll be a couple more in there where I got a bit excited and it didn't work because I knew it wouldn't work, but you've got to give it a try. Like just recently at a location near where I live, I was there with some friends. So a friend who she runs a Yowie Central podcast, Sarah Bignell. So I was with her and her husband, and I was showing them this location. And as we're walking back up the track, it's quite a fair hike. As we're walking back up the track, she then yells out, "Come on, my Doolagale friends, give me a lift back up this hill," just having a joke. And then within seconds, you hear a big tree over here go, "Watcha!" So obviously we're getting followed back up out of the valley there. And just after that, came across a couple of foot impressions where one was in the mud, and I think they've realised, oh crap, we've stepped in the mud, we've left our sign, we need to step onto the grass line beside the track. And from there, a couple of metres up, we found a couple of foot impressions walking up the track line, up the grass line beside the track, in the grass. And there was two of them. One was about a 16-inch foot, and the other was about a 9-inch foot. And I got a bit ambitious, went back that afternoon to try and cast them, even though I knew I didn't have much chance. And yeah, I cast them, but it's just basically a big blob of plaster that shows nothing. But I had to try. But yeah, pretty much from since joining Australian Yowie Research, as I said, I've experienced pretty much everything you can think of. And as people know about the Buckingham thermals, so that actually kicked off with some other thermals that I took about 3 months before that on the same area, but off the front side of the mountain. So we had some experiences down the front side, which then led us onto that particular thermal. And what those experiences involved was also, the big fellas, the Dulagal, and a particular location where, when people speak about the Bigfoot UFO connection, I've had the personal experience with that, and that was previous to the Buckingham thermals, and that actually included myself and a couple of other guys. We've set up base camp at this one location, and we're just sitting there chilling out. Not much is going on. You could hear koalas in the distance across the dam mating call. So if no one on your side of the fence has heard a koala's mating call, YouTube it. It'll scare the crap out of you if you don't know what it is. But so we there's a bit of that going on, and Dean's gone up the track a bit, and he said, I can over the radio, I can hear something moving down below me, like it's clearly bipedals pushing through the forest down below. And I went back out of the radio. Would you like me to come up there and give you some backup? And he said, no, I'm just sitting here quietly in the dark listening. And not long after that, we heard what you're going to describe as a mechanical buzz. And what would sound like when people at the beach with stunt kites, when they dive a stunt kite, the wings make that flutter noise. If you mix that with a mechanical buzz, we look up, and in the open tree canopy above us, if you picture two F-250 trucks and put them nose to nose to create a V, picture that for size, but it's just a blacked out V that covered the stars as it went over, with that weird mechanical kite sound. And it was traveling in a southeast direction, and only probably height-wise, I've always said, like, on Australian podcasts, like, two power poles high, because that's the people over here understand what the height of two power poles would be. So I'm not too sure how tall your power poles are, but say if we just go 120 feet off the ground, and this thing just glided over top of us and kept going. That was seconds after Dean had this being pushing through the forest there below him. So then that kicked on for us to investigate that particular area. And there was one particular night where I was standing up on the road, and this road goes up to Springbrook, which people know about. That's a heavily occupied area for the Australian Dulagal. And so we're I was on the side of the road. It was about 1 o'clock in the morning. So I can't say no cars, because a couple of cars did come past, but more so, drifters and that kind of stuff, because they are mountain roads and up there drifting and doing stuff like that. So we had a couple of cars come past, but nothing crazy. And I've got the thermal camera, and I hear what sounds like a bulldozer coming down through the forest. Because opposite me on the other side of the road was the ridge line, and that come down to the road. I pull the thermal camera up, and I see this massive heat blob. So I kept watching it because I had no idea what it was. And the closer it got, then it split into two. And then I could see what I was looking at. Two Dulagal. And they separated from each other. One went and sat over on the left. One went over to the right, was pulling out bulbs and plants from the ground, ferns and that kind of thing, while the other one just sat off to the left and did its thing. The only downfall of this was, yes, I did record it. I recorded this for 14 minutes. The only downside was the distance between us was great. It wasn't that close, but I could clearly see it was two beings that come down from the ridge line above. And so it's for 14 minutes watching them do their thing, and like that's like the screen grabs I sent you. That's from that 14-minute video. And funnily enough, I mean, like people that live up Springbrook, they obviously know about the big fellas. It's not a secret to them. I mean, there are still some ignorant people up there which don't believe. Same on my mountain. A lot of people on my mountain believe, and a lot of people think it's a joke. Yeah, that's just how life is. But funnily enough, as I'm recording these two beings on the other side of the road, up on the hillside, a car comes up. This car slows down. Oh, this is dead set truth. This car slows down and goes, "There's Yowies up there, boys," and then they just keep going. But you got to think like the cars, our cars that are parked, they've got Yowie hunters on them, and then you got me at 1 o'clock in the morning standing on the side of the road with a camera looking up into the ridgeline. So for them, put two and two together, So they obviously worked out what was going on. But again, like they obviously lived up there and they knew what was going on. But the crazy thing was, as soon as they did that, so the headlights on the car blinded the thermal camera for a couple of seconds, so I couldn't see anything. When I put the camera back, they were gone. And I'm not talking about like we could hear them run off or they were hiding. Like there's nothing big enough over there for two beings of that size to hide. No trees big enough, no boulders big enough, nothing. But they were gone. And like as you may know, like these thermal cameras can see bugs flying around at night. So they sure as hell are going to see two potentially 8 to 10 foot beings running back up the hill or ducking, weaving and whatnot. There was nothing there. They're gone. No idea. So that just confused the hell out of me. But it wasn't until later years that I started following a certain path, and now I understand what's going on, in my own opinions. But anyway, so that kicked off the investigation to check out that ridgeline one particular day. 3 of us went up there, footprints, knuckle prints, hand prints, all that kind of stuff on the way up, because this ridgeline gets a bit steep up ahead. And then we come up onto this rarely used walking track. And yeah, that's what kicked off to us picking a camp location and going out there and investigating that particular night. And Buck getting those incredible thermal images, which the whole thing spanned about 3 to 4 hours from when he first started noticing something, and he stayed up that end of the track, and us going back and forth and whatnot. And yes, about 3 to 4 hours. And yeah, well, I mean, there we have these two 9.5 foot beings, which we correlated from. So when we get height references and that kind of thing, the trees in the videos, we'll see. So with these guys, we saw where their heads were, and the trees that were in the video, we line them up with certain branches and that kind of thing. And then went back to the location, found where they actually were, found those particular branches or knots in trees or certain whatever. And that's how we ascertained they're about 9.5 foot tall, both of them. And I even found like 18-inch foot impressions back there when they were walking around. And one creepy point was at one time of the night, we had camp and then Buck's up the track, and I grabbed a camp chair. I went and sat in the dark halfway between camp and Buck while he was filming the initial one, which is the one peeking around the log, the tree stump, and you can see the hands moving, that kind of thing. So I was halfway sitting in the dark. And when I was the next day, when I was tracking the foot impressions around the place, I come across 2 foot impressions side by side to each other behind me. So behind me to my right, about 2 meters away, so about 6 foot away, was a big massive tree. And right beside this tree were these 2 18-inch foot impressions. And I had no idea. And this has happened to me so many times, and to other people so many times, where you don't realize how well connected these beings are and how good they are doing what they do. So obviously at one time or not, while I'm sitting there on the camp chair in between Buck and camp, one of them's come up and has stood right behind me beside this big tree, 6 feet away. I heard nothing. I saw nothing. I had no idea. And this particular location, that has happened to me so many times. to the point where I just go, yeah, it's just another experience. It's just happened again. All good. Let's just keep going. I mean, like these situations would happen that often. It's just another one. I mean, like, I mean, even to the point where so much has happened where again we just tick it off and we've forgotten about a lot of stuff that's happened because it's just another experience. And a lot of the time, like even these days, I don't take electronic equipment with me too much because I figure that through experience that they can pick up on electronic frequency. So a lot of time with my phone, I'll put my phone in a Faraday bag. So for those that don't know, a Faraday bag is a bag that blocks all electronic signal and phone reception and everything. You don't have to turn your phone off. You can leave your phone on, just throw it in the bag. All signal is cut off completely. And of course, when you take your phone out of the bag, the phone's going off because of the notifications and everything. So a lot of time I'll put my phone in the Faraday bag just to really cut down on that electronic signature as I'm trekking through the forest. And that's also why I don't take the thermal camera out too much these days because my personal direction these days is I want to make contact. I don't care about getting the picture to prove it to the world. I want to make contact. And a couple of times I've been very close. Just certain situations have changed that, like homeowners having to leave that particular property. So I lost access to a particular property, but that would be the closest I've come to at the least visual contact. Things were kicking off through a lot of it through mutual respect. I this one particular area, I took in a thermal camera once, and I sat at a location where I could see the house to the right and the main area to the left. I sat up on the embankment. Nothing. But we went in the next day, and there was an X marker on the ground exactly where I was sitting. So they knew where I was. So I guess I left my energy imprint, my butt imprint on that spot, and then we know where you are. Here's an X. There you go. See you later. But yeah, that location, I mean, again, through mutual respect and trying to work out and understanding. I mean, as I said, with all of the glyphs and symbols like I sent you, I still have no idea what 99% of them mean. But we find these glyphs and symbols all over the place, obviously in specific locations that correlate to these beings. And we this property we find them all the time. We find rock stacks, we find X markers, tree breaks, tree structures that even create tree structures up in trees with branches and logs going across different directions, that kind of stuff. I managed to cast one footprint in there out of four beings in there. And when I know that because there was 4 different size footprints. I managed to cast a 14-inch footprint. But the others were the 14, we had a 16, 17-inch footprint, foot impression, I should say, a 9-inch, one that was a bit bigger, maybe a 12 to 13-inch, and the biggest one was a 21-inch foot impression. So I guess that was Big Daddy. So yeah, we knew there was 4 beings minimum in this particular area. Not all the time, like might be 1 or 2 here or there, then they leave and come back. And we started to gift with crystals, with clear quartz and smoky quartz. They disappeared for weeks, and they'd be returned. So I can't remember if I sent you this picture, but there's I might have where there's a labradorite plate jammed in the ground vertically, and there's ferns around it. In front of that plate is an X marker with the crystals. So that's what they did when they returned the crystals. They returned them in that particular arrangement. So we didn't do that; they did that. And so this area was kicking off. Like the amount of stuff was happening. Again, we do it with respect. We wouldn't just go in there whenever we wanted and for as long as we wanted. So we had a rule that we'd only go in there for an hour. And even if we're finding stuff like, no, it's been an hour, it's time to get out. And we wouldn't go every day. Every second or third day we go in. Sometimes once a week. But yeah, it was the hour time limit. That was the maximum time we allowed ourselves. And by doing this, and it actually progressed. And there was a location down lower, which we had to track down a little bit to. There's some kind of significance about that area. And also, just to add to this, we do have a ley line that does run straight through this area up over my mountain. So this ley line went straight through this property, and this lower area, there's some kind of significance to it. And they softly tried to get us to stop going down there. And it's probably the third or fourth softly trying to stop us going down there is when we went, oh, hang on, this keeps happening. Maybe we should stay in the top area and see what happens. And when I say softly trying to stop us going down, there's no like pushing down trees, nothing like that. They get branches from other trees, and they twist and tie them to vines that were hanging out of trees, so they could see the direction we were going. Obviously, with our trackway going down the side of the hill, and they'll gently put in vines and tying branches across the track and that kind of stuff. So we could still quite easily get around it, but it was just a gentle way of saying, please stop going here, please stop going here. And again, once we did the activity up top, it kicked off. That's when we started getting more vocalizations. We started finding more stuff, all sorts of stuff. And even to the point one night, so funny story is that the people that lived there, the wife and the daughters didn't believe it, that it was going on, that they reckon someone was going in there and just causing issues, even though it's a very private property and it is in the middle of the forest. And the guy that lives there, he then called me one night and goes, oh, they're back. So we're excited on the phone because he's a believer knower. He's all pumping excited. I'm all pumping excited. And his partner at the time, she's in the background cracking it. Like, she wasn't happy because their paradigm has just been shifted, just bluntly shifted, because again, like they thought, yeah, this is just a bit of, hoo-ha, someone having fun. And then this particular night, they heard multiple beings walking down the back of the house, talking to each other. And I've heard these beings talk many times over the years. Our fellas, when they speak, it's very similar to your fellas. So again, if people think of this Sierra sounds, very close to that. No, it's very, very similar. So they've heard these beings walking in the back of the house, heading to the area, talking to each other. So myself and her partner were on the phone, like, excited, and he's got me on speaker, and she yells out, and she wasn't happy. She yells out, "It's not effing funny. Tell him to get the F dead here and get rid of him." I don't know what I'm going to do. Excuse me, guys. Can you please vacate the area? It's in the middle of the forest. So anyway, I've jumped in the ute and come down, and I thought the area that they're most likely crossing the road, I'm going to sit up high up the road there and see if I can get them on thermal, crossing back and forth over the road, because on the other side, it's forest everywhere, but on the other side there's a creek system. And we figured they were coming up that creek system, crossing straight over the road, straight into their property. So I decided to sit up here and hope and wait. For the next 2 hours, myself and the other guy, we were texting each other. He's in the house, I'm on the other side of the road, and we're texting each other. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? And you can hear them like moving around. You can hear them, rocks being moved around, branches, trees, all that kind of stuff. Hear them talking. Oh no, man, yeah. You hear them going on for 2 hours, and then it just quieted down. But yeah, I mean, like I could do a whole episode just on this place. So, I mean, like, as I said, that was the place that really kicked it off. And the closest I got to actual, at the least, visual contact. It got super close. I think the very last experience, I guess you call it, was we were in there, and I went Facebook Live on Australian Yowie Research, and I was on the camera saying, oh, there's something. We were in the area, and I could hear something big moving down there. And I said on the camera, like, that is not a bush turkey. That's something big down there. But we're trying to keep boundaries and trying to keep respect. So we'll stay up here. We can hear you, but we'll stay here and you stay there. We'll just take it from there. And then that bush turkey went dead quiet. And then so after a little bit, we left. It was the hour time limit, so we left. And so we've gone back out to the driveway. And as soon as we get out to the driveway and lean on the back of the car, whoa, this big vehicle comes out of there. And of course, we just go, whoa, adrenaline, excitement. Oh, we're going to get back in there. But when you get halfway in there, you get to a fallen tree. And this particular fallen tree, we've found footprints and handprints on the tree and that kind of stuff. That's kind of like a gate marker, I guess you'd call it. We sort of got to that fallen tree. And we're like, we've already been in there an hour. We've been using these protocols for a while now, and it's been working. Let's not, as much as we want to go back in there after this vocalization when we just left, let's just suck it up and stay out. So we stayed out. And then the only problem was they had to leave the property in a couple of weeks. So I said to the guy, look, I want to go in there and put out that intent, because I'm a spiritual person. I'm big on energy and intent and manifestation and mantras and that kind of stuff. That's my personal belief. People can follow their own personal beliefs, but I'm big on that. And I said I want to go in there, spend some time in there, and I want to speak to the area, like I've done a lot of places, not just speak in the mind, verbally speak to the area and say, look, we'll be back. They have to leave in a couple of weeks, but we'll be back in 2 sleeps. At the same time, we'll be back in 2 sleeps, and I hope to make some kind of contact. And that next night, he then stood out in the balcony and spoke to the area as well and said, look guys, I'm sorry, we have to leave. We have to move out because, the lease is up and so on and so forth. Again, he spoke those words to the area, words of energy and intent. The next night, he had, I think from what he was saying, a young being, not one of the parents, I don't think, but a being was in there, and he said he could hear like a sad whimpering noise and timber and wood and rocks getting thrown around. He texted me the next day and told me what happened. We went in there and everything's gone. Everything's dismantled. Rock stacks are gone. Tree structures are gone. The gifting rock that we were using for crystals and that kind of stuff, it's turned up on its side. Everything's just been dismantled. I was pissed. I mean, it was a couple of weeks before they had to move out. I just had to wait a couple of weeks for him to say that, but he said it that night, and I didn't get the chance to go in there with the intent to say, I'll be back in 2 sleeps. Let's try and, let's hook up for a coffee. I didn't get a chance to do that. So that sucks. But I mean, the whole area is active. As I said, I'm a spiritual person, and again, energy and manifestation intent. Even with Australian Yowie research, a lot of findings that we would have, I'd follow my intuition, follow my instincts. When we go into certain places, my intuition would say, no, we need to go this way. Even though the team wants to go that way, I said, no, we need to go this way. And next, there's activity throughout the whole night. Or one place in Brisbane. So for those that don't know, Brisbane is the capital city of Queensland. There's an area up there which is very active. A good friend of mine, Jeremy, he researches this area quite a fair bit. And we were in there one night, and again, following my intuition, I went around the back of this dam and come across footprints. And then the other guys from AYR, they caught up, like, oh, where are we staying tonight? And my intuition said, we need to stay up on this ridge just up here. And next thing you know, that night, myself and Buck were on the front side of this ridge. Dean stayed up a bit higher to camp, and next day Dean's got another one on thermal camera. Unfortunately, Buck and I had the new thermal camera down there by the dam, and Dean had the old flow camera, which had seen a lot better days a long time ago. So he only had that, so it captured photo, but it didn't capture video like it used to, because it's getting old and done, and even the quality of it wasn't the best. But he still watched a being walk near the opposite ridge line, looking at him, like he's all dressed in black, He sat there quietly for hours, and this being has come down the other ridge line, looking at him as he's walking down the ridge line, got to a certain tree, and then stuck his head around the tree looking at Dean. And Dean's wearing black, just no lights, nothing. This being knew exactly where Dean was. And Dean managed to get the head of this being popping out around the tree. And then we go back to what I said about looking for certain branches and knots on trees to ascertain how tall the beings are. So we went back another week later and worked all that out. This being was about 8.5 to 9 foot tall. But yeah, point being is that, yeah, with those kind of situations, I do follow my intuition and whatnot a lot of the time. And even the night of the Buckingham films that everyone knows about, they went worldwide. They went Discovery Channel, History Channel, news, radio, podcast. They went everywhere for good reason, obviously. I even went into the forest for 40 minutes that evening before it got dark, and I sat in the forest for 40 minutes and meditated to put out that intention. I do a lot of meditation. Honestly, I've done a bit of slack lately, but I do a lot of meditation. And that night, I went out for 40 minutes and put out that intention through meditation into the forest. I'm not saying that that's why they come up. That particular area is just active. There's something about that area, even the creek system down below it. The experiences that we've had in that area are anything and everything, to gut piles, to weird scat, all the vocals, potential hair, sticks, rocks, everything you can think of. Even like one particular entrance point to this area, we walked in there one day. We left the cars down by the road. This time we walked in there, and we got to a certain point, and then down below in the valley you hear a whistle, and I know 99% of the time they always whistle in 3 tones. We heard a whistle down below, and in response a tree line up above to say, 2 humans have entered the area. There's something about this particular area. But anyway, yeah, so again, I'm not saying my meditation was what brought them on for Buck to get them on thermal. I think it's the area itself, but I do follow these personal protocols a fair bit, especially going into an area, announcing myself to the potential Aboriginal spirits or the spirits of the area, announce myself to them, and to the Dooligal as well as I'm entering an area. Again, saying, "Oh, look, I mean no harm," and he would respect and friendship, nothing else. Even that night, I was playing the Earth frequency 432 hertz on my phone as I was walking around on the thermal night. Not very loud, but still I could just hear it, which may or may not do anything when these current modern devices, even though you play the music as we know now, they don't play 432 hertz frequency they used to. They can now say 440, which they changed it to. So your TVs and everything plays everything 440 hertz, I think it is. So yeah, probably didn't do anything, but it's worth a try.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, like those kind of situations would arise a lot. And again, my intuition, I listen to a lot. And the more you listen through intuition, the stronger it gets. But through certain experiences and certain weird things that happen that you can't explain, that's why I started to follow the energy path with my research, because of experiences that we all had in AYR, not just me. The whole team had weird experiences, to things just disappearing and noises that you can't explain and all this kind of stuff. Even to the point where like you're deep in the forest and you can hear a metal pipe being hit. There's no metal pipes in this area. Like it's dense, deep forest where there's no plumbing, there's no power lines, there's no anything, and you can hear a metal pipe being hit. All that kind of weird stuff. So this, because of the amount of experiences that we had with these odd situations, that's why I started looking into the energy side of it. And that's where you come back to, these beings seemingly disappearing in front of people's eyes, which I know a lot of people don't like it, and they won't accept it, which that's perfectly fine. For just in the general sense with these beings, people have to see it with their own eyes to believe it before they'll walk that path, which is perfectly fine. You can't expect anyone to to believe you just because you say so, but they should still have the respect to listen to you and understand what you're saying. Again, they don't have to believe you, but they give you the respect and the time of day to listen to your story. So following this path, that then led me on to Reiki. So I ended up doing Reiki levels 1 and 2. And for those that don't know, Reiki is energy work, and energy manifestation, energy moving on. So to clear the body of negative energy and attachments and that kind of way of things. I did not do Reiki level 1 and 2 to become a healer. I wanted to do levels 1 and 2 to use it in aid of making contact, like another tool in the toolbox. That's the exact reason why I do it. The crazy thing was, not crazy, but the thing was, once doing the level 1 attunements, that's when things started happening. So with Reiki, with the attunements, you do a 21-day meditation with each attunement. And within that first attunement and the meditations after that, through that meditation, I ended up having such visuals within meditation to the point where I saw a whole tribe as clear as I can see you on the camera right now. Your features, your hat, your headphones, your grey shirt, the mountains on your t-shirt. I saw the details of a whole tribe. I think it was 7 or 8 beings, and the last one was a child. I saw basically like a snapshot of each one for about 2 to 3 seconds, then went to the next one, and then I went to a location. I have no idea where this location was. I guess like I managed to step behind the veil enough that I was seeing how these kind of high levels healers do see. I managed to do that. And then again, went to a location. I have no idea where it was. If I see the location, if I come across the location, I'll damn well know what location I'm at. But I have no idea where it was. And then from that moment, that's where they started coming up to the back of our property. So our property, again, I live in the mountains in the Gold Coast hinterland, on a mountain called Beachmont. Not Beachmere, which is north of Brisbane, Beachmont, which is the next mountain north of Springbrook. So you got Springbrook, Tamborine, and then, Springbrook, Beachmont, then Tamborine going in the northern direction. And Springbrook was touted as the place that's where everything happens. But we've been up there going on 9 years now, and Beachmont is just as active as Springbrook is. People up there know who I am, and I got a report the other day of a lady picking up rubbish that someone dumped on the side of the road. Just gone dark in that transition, twilight period. She's pulled up to pick up rubbish that someone's dumped on the side of the road. She did that, and she heard a tree knock. She looked up above, and she saw one of the big fellas standing up there behind a tree. She then said to this big fella, "I apologise. I mean no disrespect. I'm just picking up the rubbish that someone's dumped." And again, this goes to the side that a lot of people don't want to talk about, which that's fine. But as I always say to people, you can't look at this subject from one particular narrative that suits or I guess one angle that suits your personal narrative. You have to look at it from all sides of the box, because that's just how it is. We don't know enough yet, or we've forgotten over time the connections and what these beings can do. So after she said that to this being about, no disrespect, I'm just picking up rubbish someone's dumped. This being then ran between the trees back and forth, and she said that every time he'd pass the tree would warp and distort. She didn't know what was going on, but I mean that was her experience. So there's always something going on my mountain as well. But anyway, back to the Reiki side. So once doing level 1 attunements, things were kicking off with meditation, and level 2 attunements come along, and that's when they started coming up to the back of their property. And this has been noted not just by myself, but my wife, my daughter, by my dogs, by friends that have come around. They've all heard big heavy bipedal footsteps go up to a certain big gum tree down the backyard there. And I put a gifting basket down there. Stupidly a plastic one. I should have put a cane basket up. from the get-go, so that's my own fault. But I put up a white plastic basket, so not natural, obviously. They then come up and got a trident stick about 2 foot long, and we have a chain link fence that goes around the back of the property down there. And they wove this stick horizontally through the links, so it can't fall out of the trees like that. Like it's horizontal and woven through the links, and it's a trident stick. They did that, and not long after, they did another one on the other side of the gifting basket, the pointless gifting basket. Same height, same trident stick, about the same size. They wove that through the fence as well. But that's like I've tried to gift crystals in that basket. They're not interested. It's like I opened a bigger beacon for myself after doing the Reiki attunements, and they're happy to come up. Like I've cast 16-inch footprints off the back of my place. But that's like it. Like you hear the odd tree knock. You hear them come up every now and again. I've seen green flashes of light down under the tree where they come up to. I went down there one night with a piece of amethyst, amethyst crystal to put in the gifting basket. I got down there and I used the front of my torch, held it up, and shone the torch around the crystals to show them what I was putting in the basket. And I put it in the basket. I walked away. I got about 10 feet away, and a rock landed on the other side of the fence. And it didn't come downhill from where the houses are, because you hear it rolling down the hill. It came uphill and landed with the thud when it landed in the ground. So it wasn't at me. It was acknowledgement that I've put a gift in the basket for them. They didn't take it, unfortunately. But every now and again they'll come up and they'll stop around and they'll make little X markers, or they'll just hang around for a bit and then leave. One particular, the last time they come up was a little while ago, and I was with another mate of mine who researches as well, and we were at another location where we got the biggest vocal that I think if I had recorded it, it would have been the #1 vocal in Australia. But as it happens, it's all about timing. They often know when the camera's turned off. So I'd stopped recording the GoPro, and then this massive big silverback vocalization down to the creek down below us. And I turned the camera back on, and we missed it. So that happened during the day. Then that night, sitting in the back patio with the wife, having a cup of tea in the dark, and just sitting there watching the stars, because our place looks over the top of the army. We have a big army base off the back. It's just on mountains and valleys. So we have a pretty decent view off the back of our place. So we're sitting there looking at the stars, just quietly talking. Daughter's up in bed asleep. Dogs on the patio snoring. And next thing I hear the big heavy footsteps and the movement. Even the wife is like, that is not a possum. So I'm just wearing boxer shorts. I jump off the patio. I sprint down the backyard. I'm probably only 10 meters or less from them. And I'm like, hello, like, you there? Like, hello? And yeah, nothing. They went dead quiet. Righto. And they ended up walking back up to the house. And I sat back on the patio. The wife said, what happened? Oh, yeah, nothing. No, they went quiet. About 30 seconds later, they start kicking off, doing what they were doing down there. So I guess I wasn't invited to the tea party, unfortunately. But yeah, but it's mate, like it's. I mean, the amount of sightings and reports. I mean, like again, I could. This would be like a 24-hour podcast, mate. If I go through everything step by step detail, everything is just like the amount of experiences and the amount of people I speak to, the places I go, even to the point where like if with my business, if I go to a property that I think has potential or I know the area, I'll just start asking questions. You know, have you seen anything weird? Have you heard anything weird? And often, even like one place was like, oh, you know, we the other day we could hear someone walking down the back of the property. Well, when I say that, like, it wasn't the area they were talking. It wasn't too far from the house, but it's still a forest. They said they could hear. They reckon the neighbours were going for a walk through their property. I was like, you know where you live, don't you? You know what happens around here, don't you? And we're like, maybe it wasn't your neighbours just jumping your fence and going for a walk through your property. I think it was someone else. But yeah, I mean, it's just the amount of experiences and things that happen, people I speak to, the encounters and sightings and whatnot. I even decided to go do ayahuasca ceremony in aid of making contact. So it was, midway through last year, I went up to the Sunshine Coast where Josh is from. Went up there to do ayahuasca ceremony. Incredible experience. Daunting when you've never done that kind of thing, but relax into it and incredible experience. I mean, my whole thing was, my main question to go do it was, am I walking the right path? Am I doing the right things? I got the answer was yes, and from there, I mean, I know I made contact with the big fellas a couple of times. This one particular time, there was a young male in the area. And on saying this, unless you've done, I'm not a drug person. I don't do drugs because my body, like even coffee, I can have a triple shot of coffee like straight before bed and I'm still going to sleep. So I don't really do too much because it's wasted on me, I guess you'd say. But for those that aren't familiar with psychedelics and that kind of stuff, and ayahuasca is not it's a natural derivative. It's not man-made in a lab. It's from Mother Earth. So that's got to give us some big points and credence for that. But yeah, I mean, I'm this one young male with the ayahuasca ceremony. He said he wanted to make contact with me, and I'm laying down, and obviously, with all this, you're looking from your third eye, from third person perspective as such. And he come and laid down head to head with me. We're both looking up, but he wouldn't show his true self. He kept saying he kept switching between like a painting of himself to a cardboard cutout of himself to paper mache to whatever. I kept saying it's okay, like you can trust me, you can show your true self. And he was confident enough to lay head to head with me, but not show his true self, which that's fine. We still had a connection within that. But again, point being is that I did ayahuasca ceremony to, again, another tool and toolbox in aid of making contact because of the experiences that I've had, that many people have had over the years while doing the research or just in general bushwalking, that kind of thing. I know, again, like I know a lot of people won't succumb to this side of it. That's fine, but I'm sorry, but it does happen. And I'm sorry, but there are a lot of people out there who have these kind of experiences and will talk about it. So, I mean, you can down one or two people, but when there's people around the world talking about these kind of things, then, I think you got to back off a bit and, again, you don't have to believe it, but just take it in and listen. I mean, as we do over here, you do over there with these beings disappearing. I mean, my personal opinion is that they can change their vibration. And if they change their vibration by 1 degree, then they would disappear to our eyes because we can't see anything. As human beings, visually, we're blind. When you look at the sight and sound spectrum, we see nothing. We see next to nothing. So for all we know, right now, I've got someone sitting in the back of you right now, and you've got 3 people standing behind you right now as well. We've got no idea because we can't see in those spectrums. If we could, that'd be great. So I think even deer can see in ultraviolet. So there's so much that we are potentially missing out on all around us at all times of the day. So again, that's why I look into this side of it as well. I won't turn my back away from it. And because I've had the experiences and I've done the trial and error of this path and have gotten results, be it minimal for some and maximum for others, I'm still happy to investigate using these energy paths as well. But again, I don't push it on people. That's my own personal perspective and narrative. People should walk their path, walk the path that suits you the best. And I just hope that people have an experience and see the world that we actually live in. Because as far as I'm concerned, every single person has had a paranormal experience, whether they believe it or not. Be it ghosts, spirits, UFOs, strange lights in the trees, strange lights in the sky. And as we know, like, most people pass it off and won't acknowledge it. Like, I can't think who was telling me about this. I think it's a friend of mine, but when they were younger, the whole family saw a UFO with flashing lights. But the mother, to this day, she's like, no, that was just a helicopter. Even though, like, my friend, his siblings, the father, everyone's like, no, that was a UFO. The mother's like, no, she just won't accept it. No, it's a helicopter. Because, you know, obviously it's going to change your paradigm too much. The world isn't what they think it is.
Right. Yeah. I think it really bums a lot of people out whenever they know what they saw and they just want to dismiss it and put it in the back of their mind. But that's how it goes. A lot of people are really dismissive, and, you know, when you experience something strange, you know without a doubt what it was, especially if you run into the Yowies, you see like a UFO. And yeah, a lot of the stuff that you mentioned out there in Australia is stuff that I've experienced out here, from like hearing something hit like a pot, like a metal pot. We've heard that multiple times out here in the national forest. I get people that try to look for the vocalization that they heard, like try to get some type of comparison, and they send me like a koala bear, like I guess that growl that they do, like or whatever. And we don't have koala bears here, but people are like, that's what I heard. That's what it sounded like. So I wonder if, like in Australia, they'll imitate a koala bear. I'm sure they do, to like blend in with the natural environment.
Well, I mean, over here, I haven't had too much mimicking.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as from my experiences and from what I do know, our big fellas are much more quiet than your big fellas. Like I know over there, like, you can go to certain areas and just sit there and listen, and, you know, hear the vocalizations from the Sasquatch doing their thing. Mm-hmm. Over here, it's very, very rare. That's why there's next to no vocals recorded over here, because they're just that quiet. They're so aware of their surroundings and where people are, and so in tune with their areas. They know when people enter their areas. As I said before, like, we entered that area and just got in there by 100 meters, and we got a whistle down here and a tree knock acknowledgement up here. They know what's going on, so they're very quiet. I think, like, with a lot of vocals here, there are some. They're okay, but for the most part, they've really got to run the vocal through a computer program and pull that vocal out of it. Mm-hmm. Because it's not a forefront sound. And again, that's why I say bummed about the vocal with my mate at this other location, Dion. That I turned the camera off like seconds before this vocalization, and
that always happens to me. Like, I'll shut the viewfinder, and then it's just like, oh, like they holler or wood knock, and I'm like, I have to turn the camera back on and be like, I swear we just heard some wood knocks. And it just seems like as soon as I hit like pause, like stop recording, that's when something happens, and then I have to turn it back on, and then nothing happens. It's like, what the heck?
That's why I believe they have some kind of a knowing of what's going on, energy wise, universal wise. Because it happens to us too much, and that's why I believe there's more to it. You know, Optimus Prime says more than meets the eye.
Yeah, I saw one crawling on all fours coming towards us, and I panned around with the thermal, and when I saw it, my eyes got like big. Before I could hit record, like, it realized what we were, threw its head up, and then took off the other way. But I agree with you. Like, if you go into an area, just record the whole time, because if not, you're going to miss it. Just stuff happens so quick, and you have to be ready for it. And you can never be ready for it, honestly. So the best way to go about it is just record. Yeah,
exactly right. It's for me, it's a bit of a catch-22, because as I said, like, a lot of time I've had stuff. A lot happen when I've had no electronic equipment going at all, hence the Faraday bag and whatnot. And other times, the cameras are going and you'll start getting stuff. So yeah, I guess it's that weird balance, and I guess understanding the areas that you're going into as well, taking note of which areas have more activity if the cameras are on or off. But again, like for me, again, it's been making contact as opposed to getting the shot. So I personally don't mind going in with no electronic equipment going. But I mean, I've just recently started a YouTube channel, so I kind of have to have the camera going there because I'm going there. Because there's a lot of people out there that don't get the chance to even go for a bushwalk. So my YouTube channel is basically about going and taking you with me through the forest where I go and to see what I do and where I go and that kind of stuff. So I guess now, it's a bit of a, I don't want the electronic equipment in this area, but I kind of have to for the content.
Yeah, for what you're doing. If you could give some advice on how you guys were able to capture the thermal video. I guess it was you that filmed it, right? Was it you?
No, so I filmed the initial one earlier, which was the screen grabs I sent you. Which was the 14-minute one, which since I left AYR, I don't have access to that camera, so I can't get the 14-minute video. But it was a good friend, Buckingham, who's still a part of Australia Research. He was the one that actually got that footage that night of that infamous thermal. But I mean, for the most part, it's really repetition and.
Were you guys walking or camping, like sitting still?
No, so we picked an area and set up a base camp, and when we go in there, we do the same things every time, for the most part, just to be predictable, and not really branch off too much and do stuff that's erratic or going to catch them off guard too much. Basically, trying to build up trust through predictability. Go to the same spot, set up the camp the same way. Do the same kind of stuff, go off in pairs, just that repetition of predictability. That's pretty much where it comes from. And again, to gain trust through that. Because we find that when we'll put it this way. So the location out of Mount Lindsay on the Queensland-New South Wales border, where I've got screamed and the potential infrasound. So that particular area, it's quite twisty roads through there. And I've got my super sport bike, my GSX R1000, and a bunch of mates, and we all get leathered up, not in a weird way, all get leathered up and go there on the bikes, and basically like a free track day. And before people get crazy, it's a 100k zone, so we're not speeding much. So we're out there for a free track day, and that area is full of activity as well. The beings out there got to know us, and we'd hear them walk. Like when we're sitting on the side of the road having a breather, we'd hear them up there walking around. You'd hear them throwing sticks, and like they throw pebbles down at us, not to hit us. Like I'm talking like little tiny, half the size of a marble, just little tiny ones to throw down at us. And it was always four of us that would go out there, and every time the four of us would go out there, we'd have stuff going on. Like, and my mates know who I am, what I'm about. They understand what's going on, so they're sweet. They love it too. But if we took, say, if you come out with us, you're an odd factor that's not part of the usual. You come out and it'd be dead quiet. There'd be nothing. We could go back the next weekend, just the four of us again, and they're up there walking around, throwing pebbles, doing their thing again. So it's that predictability and the repetition that they get used to, and they then trust that situation. But again, obviously, it's going to depend on the situation, the location, who you're with. Personally, the energy and intent of the people you go with, that is a big factor. This is going to sound very arrogant and probably unbelievable. but is what it is. Apart from that night where we got screamed at, which is when I was a novice, being a clown, walking and flashing lights through the forest, that's the only negative encounter I've ever had. I've only ever had neutral or positive encounters. Even with Australian research, all neutral or positive encounters. I've never had a negative encounter since. And I'll put that down to your intent and your energy when you go into these areas. And you don't have to be spiritual or anything to do that. As long as you're going in there with the right intent, that's the best way to do it. But we have found when we have had other people that have come with us and they've had the wrong intent, the wrong energy, either nothing happens or situations happen where you're like, oh, maybe we should leave the area earlier than we normally would. And it only ever happens when you have people there that have the wrong intent, the wrong energy.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I've noticed certain times I'll bring people to my areas and just nothing ever happens. And it's always the same people. Like, man, I swear there's stuff going on here. And then I bring my buddy there and it's just like, okay, maybe they're not here. And I go back and then I find stuff or hear stuff. And it's just like, okay, I guess they don't like certain people or maybe they're not used to them. What kind of thermal device were you guys using? Is there like a certain brand?
So for the AYR thermals, it was the Guide. The brand is Guide, Guide. It's the IR50. Multiple color palette settings, and but that particular camera can take photo, can take video. Unfortunately, can't switch between either. So since then, like I've bought the thermal I've got now. It's still a Guide, but it's a different model. It can do the same things, but also record audio as well, which is something would have been great that night that Buck got that infamous thermal. I would have loved if he had the thermal that I've got now, where just see, and then when he's recording, to record his voice as well. So not in the fact that he's talking to us over the radio, but just to hear what he's saying to himself, what he's thinking to himself as he's recording these beings. In the forest that night, it would have been incredible footage. It would have been even better if we could hear what he was saying to himself. But the brand is Guide, Guide. Okay. I think they range from like $1,000 up to 15,000 depending on model.
Yeah, I use a Pulsar thermal device. I'm not sure if you've heard of those. It's all right. I think it cost me like $2,000, but it seems like if something's like really far away, it's just blurry. I mean, it's going to have to be pretty close, within like 100 yards or so, to really be able to tell. Have you ever noticed, like, when you're out in that area with a thermal device, you'll just see like this round heat signature, and then it'll just disappear and pop up somewhere else? That's weird.
Yeah, mate. We've had plenty of stuff like that. Sometimes we've got investigated if it's a bird, but you've had to like push through the forest to find it's a bird nesting in a tree. But yes, we have seen some weird stuff. We had one particular night where we're down a track, and this is going back a fair way, but myself and Dean Harris down a track, and we're just sitting there in the dark. He put a Bluetooth speaker 100 yards down the track, cranking music just as an attractant. We're sitting back up here, just sitting in the dark quietly talking. He then saw a red orb over my shoulder, and he pulled up his old FLIR camera, watched this red orb. Other way around. He saw a massive, big humanoid heat signature behind me. I can't remember the distance. It wasn't too far away, but it wasn't too close. Big heat signature, and then it moved off and turned into a basketball-sized orb and floated off through the forest.
Is that the one you sent me? Like, you can see these big beans? Okay, I wasn't sure if that's the one. Okay, you sent me a lot of photos, though.
Yeah, so the thermals I sent you would be partially from the Buckingham thermals, the infamous ones, and the other thermal screenshots are from 14-minute video previous to Buck's thermal.
Okay. So they definitely do the arches, like they twist trees there.
Yes,
You
yes,
find the X's, so a lot of the activity really lines up with what we have here. So it had to be something that was global at one point, and you hear that about
yeah,
the Nephilim in the Bible, that it was like one continent or one civilization back then, or one world government basically back in the day.
yeah, yeah.
And there was giants back in the day, and they were breeding with like animals and stuff. And I kind of thought, that was just like folklore. But then you look at like Greek mythology, and there's like these human hybrid creatures. Do you think it has something to do with all that? What's your belief?
My belief is that we are the ones that are something different. We don't belong. I think they belong more than we do.
Hmm.
Um, how far back that goes, I don't know. But I mean, there's obviously a lot of our history is not the same. It's changed from what it used to be. I mean, as you may know, they're finding hieroglyphs on walls with people riding dinosaurs when they apparently died at millions of years ago.
Hmm.
All this kind of stuff, So it's humans living alongside dinosaurs. So if that's the truth, um, then I don't see why a lot of the other stuff that we come across doesn't have some truth to it as well. Whether they're hybrids or not, I don't know. Again, like I said, I think we're the ones that don't fit the timeline properly anyway. And then, then you come back to the ET side of it, where there's people where I've heard this multiple times, where people have been abducted on UFO craft, and they've woken up on a gurney somewhere. They've sat up to, where am I? And they've seen a Sasquatch type being step out of a doorway, press a couple of buttons on a keypad, and walk off. And it wasn't like he was a captive. It was like this Sasquatch was meant to be there. So I think that there's so much more out there we just don't get. We don't understand. Have we been brainwashed? Have our memories been erased genetically to a certain point? I don't know, but I feel that we're on the cusp now in the last couple of years and leading into the next few years, that a lot of unanswered questions are going to be answered. Things are going to come out, and that's also why I've got no issue talking to people about this, whether they believe or not. And if I'm talking to someone about it and they want to give me shit about it, that's perfectly fine. I've got no issue with that. But I'm not going to not talk about this. I'm not going to not put it in people's faces and talk about the real world we live in, because the more people that I find I put in people's faces, the more people are happy to come out and even just to speak about their own experiences. Because I think that there's a lot of people out there who do experience a lot of stuff, but they won't talk about it because they don't be ridiculed. So the more I think the more we can get people talking about the real world we live in, the more the narrative is going to change, the more the energy, the flow and direction is going to change, and I think more answers we are going to get.
Yeah, absolutely. And the more you look into it, the stranger it gets. Like you're really going down a rabbit hole, and once you start thinking you got like a grasp on it, like I don't know, it almost seems like 10 more rabbit holes open up, and it's just like, man, I thought I was starting to figure these things out. And then you start hearing like these wild stories where they either
Yeah,
disappear, turn into an orb, or people
yeah,
are mind speaking to them. Is that a thing there? Do people get like mind spoken
yes,
to? Okay, so yeah,
yes.
it's pretty much the same thing. Do you guys get reports of
Yeah,
like dogmen, other types of cryptid creatures?
yes, we do. So I've got a good friend of mine, John Kershaw. He has his own YouTube channel as well. He saw a dogman in Western Sydney, and if people look up the documentaries Track, search for Australia's Bigfoot and Tracking the Law, LORE. They'll see John's encounter on there, and it's about a dogman that he got chased. So he's fishing on his kayak. He then pulled into the bank to go have a look around and relieve himself, and something bum rushed him out of the bush. And as he's jumped back in the kayak, he's turned his camera around
as he's trying to paddle one-handed away from the embankment, and he managed to capture the head of a dog man looking over the top of the bushes at him, and you can see it clear as day. You can see the snout, the nose, the ears, the eye sockets, and in the documentary, they actually went back to the location, and there's nothing that a normal German Shepherd could stand on to get 10 to 11 foot tall. There's nothing there. It's just a big bush, and not a bush that could support a dog's weight either, from what I know. But yeah, there's dogman reports. There's actually more dogman reports coming out. There's I think a lady down the south end of the Gold Coast in a place called Currumbin Valley. She's had a report of multiple dogmen coming out of the forest to annoy her at her property. We also get reports of goatman as well. But things like goatman and that's one that's more scarce. Where you sort of put your attention more to dogman and the big fellas, the goatman stuff. You know, I only get the one or two here or there. Still happy to listen to it, but it's not a very common thing.
Yeah, when you're out there at 1 a.m. and it pops up into your mind, you're like, oh crap. At least it does with me. I'm like, man, hope Dogman doesn't come out. Yeah.
I mean, like even all the mind speak stuff as well. That is reported here more often than not. And even I do know one high profile person who is well known, and he has had those kind of experiences. But it is more common than what people think it is with mind speak and the telepathy, the disappearing. Big fellas seemingly disappearing in front of hunters' eyes and that kind of stuff. And even going back to hunters, just to touch on that for 2 seconds. I know that there's a lot of people who are hunters, both here and your side of the fence, who, you know, I'm a hunter. I've been hunting all my life. I've never seen nothing. I've never experienced anything. Well, just to squash that, one of the members of Australian Research, or he used to be, Wade Matthews, he's a pig hunter, and he's an all-round tough bloke. Don't want to mess with him. He's a cage fighter. He's a ex-security guard. He's ex-football player. A pig hunter. He's had experiences while they're pig hunting. One of them was they heard they pull up to an area at night, and they let the dogs off the back of the ute, and the dogs took off in the darkness. And they heard some big screams and yells and roars and that kind of stuff. And the dogs come tearing back to the ute, jumped under the ute, and their night was done. Those dogs would not leave the ute again. So and he's had multiple experiences himself. So just to say to everyone that, you know, these hunters don't have experiences, well, Wade's proof that you can be a pig hunter and still have these kind of experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. For some reason, it ticks these things off whenever you're hunting the pigs. I think that's like a food source for them.
Oh, it would be, man. Like I've had many stories, but here and from over your way as well, about humans and the big fellas coming to a head when they're both chasing a pig. It's really nothing new. Even kangaroos. I know of a guy who's a bow hunter, and he's been out bow hunting for kangaroos at night. Seen one, marked it, jumped out of the tree to go pick up the roo. No roo, but on his thermal, he watched the roo drop, and it's dead. It's done. He goes over there, and we're only talking, you know, a minute to 2 minutes for him to get out of the tree and go pick up the roo, and it's gone. And then you know, he speaks to me about it, and I end up telling him that, well, the area that you're in does have a high rate of activity for the big fellas as well. So it's a very high chance that one of them's watching him bow hunt, and he's done the work for them.
Yeah, it's pretty similar to what I've experienced here. One time I shot a deer, followed the blood trail, the tracks, and then I started seeing like little human female tracks. I'm like, man, what's a girl doing walking around in the snow? And then I get to the spot where you could tell the deer was laying because it was nothing but leaves. You could tell like it melted the snow. Well, the human tracks, the deer tracks, and the blood trail just end. It's like, how did it? What the hell just happened? No, I never found any tracks, no deer, no blood. It just ended.
And like that's the thing, mate. Like there are times where people find like two footprints then disappears. There are times where there will be a log or a big rock or something where they could have then gone from those two tracks, stepped up onto a log or whatever, which you wouldn't see a footprint. But there are times also where the tracks, as you said, they disappear. There's just nothing there, and there's no tree nearby to jump up into. There's no rock to stand on. There's no log. There's no fallen tree. There's nothing close enough. But the tracks disappear. And
the only thing I thought of was like it picked up the deer and like swung from tree to tree, like Tarzan or something.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. I can definitely see that, but like you'd also expect to see some kind of sign of that happening as well, like blood splattered on the tree as they reached up and swung, but there's just nothing, and like it's weird. It's very, very weird, and that again, that's why you've got to look at this subject from all sides of the box.
Yeah, I think when that happens, a lot of people say look up. Maybe it's up in the tree with the deer or something. I don't know. Maybe it's hard to say. I can't remember if I looked up or not because I'm looking down for tracks. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's also natural human nature as well to, as we walk these trails and bushwalks, to look at the ground and where we're going. I mean, especially here in Australia as well, to always be watching the ground as well, because as you know, we've got some of the most dangerous snakes on the planet, and you just have to cross paths sometimes, and some of them you can step over and keep going, but others you want to let them move on their way before you get close enough, because otherwise you won't be getting back to the car.
Yeah. What's the most venomous snake there? Like a red belly, or I don't know.
Eastern brown. So it's basically basically a big medium to chocolate brown snake with a black head. Unless you're experienced, do not even look at it. Just stay away. And even on saying that, even if you come across a baby brown, really stay away because they have no control over their venom. So when an adult snake bites you with Eastern brown, they inject as much as they need to. So you do have a very, very, very slim chance of living. But if you get bitten by a baby brown, they inject the whole lot into you, and you're done. So it's probably one of the few times where the babies are more dangerous than the parents. But yeah, if you get bitten by an Eastern brown, there's a high chance you're not going home.
Yeah. Have you guys had any close calls with them?
Taipans, yes. No browns. A lot of tree snakes, a lot of carpet pythons, a couple of taipans, but yeah, nothing too crazy. I mean, for the most part, they hear you coming, so they leave. It's not really they're not often sitting there waiting for you to turn up, or unless you see them and you intentionally go near them. But a lot of the time, they'll leave as soon as you enter the area. They'll hear you coming. They'll often move off. So it can be pretty safe.
Yeah. Okay, so what's your ultimate goal with doing this? You said you haven't been bringing too much equipment out there and you want to make contact. What else is like the top priority for you right now in this moment?
Right now, this moment is definitely making contact and having those really deep, intimate connections. Be it like a consistent visual thing or a consistent gifting thing, audio, whatever. Really try to, that's what's after the Reiki attunement, when they started coming back to the property, that's why I put the gifting basket down there, because I want to try and set up a safe space where things can grow from there. But now, where we are now, we're in the process of getting our place ready for sale. And we're going to try and still stay up there, but try and find something with a lot more land and as much forest as possible. So to try and create a safe space and really push that envelope of contact and mutual respect, I guess you call it, mutual understanding and mutual respect, and really go from there. And yeah, see what comes out of it. I mean, if it comes to a point where, I mean, a photo opportunity or something like that would potentially arise and they'd be okay with it, that'd be something I'd consider, but it wouldn't be my priority to do so. That's very, very much a secondary thing to get a visual photograph or video. Like audio, I'm happy to get audio and release that straight away. But visually, photo, video, that's something I have to really take into consideration the situation I'm in at that particular time, whether I decide to do that or not.
Yeah. Is your family pretty cool with you doing the Yowie research, or does it get overwhelming and it's hard to like maintain like consistency with your family, friends, and all that? What's your take on that?
Luckily, I've got a good circle of friends, and you know, as Aussies do, Aussies hang a lot of shit on each other, but that's just how we are. So you don't take that to heart, because we're just having a bit of fun with each other. So my circle of friends, they know what I do. They know what I'm about. They know that I do stuff like this, like we're talking to you. They know all that stuff. So on one side, we'll go camping, and they'll throw some shit at me that I'm just out to go make love to a Yowie. But on the back end, they also know that how passionate I am about this, and we're just having a bit of fun. So there's zero issues with any of that. And even half of them have had experiences themselves they can't understand. I mean, like a couple of camp trips ago, those same mates that were giving me shit. We were standing around the campfire that night, and I picked up that there's someone behind us in the tree line. I didn't worry about it. And then I get this area, like again, this goes into the energy side of it that people don't understand or like for the most part. So I've picked up through my intuition that we got a visitor behind us in the tree line, and then again this area has very little reception on the phone. I went back up to my swag. I managed to get, for whatever reason, I picked up my phone and I got a very small slither of reception for a second, and a text message come through from a mate of mine who's here, who's an energy worker, and he goes, the text message that come through said there's a big fella watching you in the tree line. And again, this is complete truth. I'm not making this up at all. And that's about a half-hour time difference between me noticing and my mate sending me this message. So you're like, oh, okay, righto. Well, okay, that's a bit of confirmation there. And then about 3 o'clock in the morning, those same mates that were giving me a bit of shit, which they do, we're going for a walk away from camp past a different tree line. And they got to a point, they both said they heard something move. They stopped. Well, they're walking around with no torches. They're just walking in the dark, having a beer, just talking. And they got to a certain point, they heard something move, and they stopped. And then something massive took off running away from them. So my mates know what I'm about. They understand. They understand the situation. They know there's more out there than just snakes and koalas. Mm-hmm. So I'm lucky in that respect. And also I don't care what people think of me anyway, so that helps. But my wife, my family, I do have some family members that are still very much, they need to see it with their own eyes to believe it, which again is perfectly fine. Yeah. But then, like my wife, my daughter, they've got no choice. I mean, like my daughter has seen them twice when she was 3. I mean, she's at daycare. Well, she's 7 now, but she's at daycare, and I finish work, pick her up on the way home. And as we do, we stop at a bushwalking track on the way home, driving up the mountain, and to really tire her out. So when I get home, I can sit down and do nothing. So she just chills when she gets home because she's gassed out. So we're doing that as we always do, and we're walking on this particular trail, and she's behind me, doing what 3-year-olds do with sticks and rocks and that kind of thing. And next thing she's, where'd he go? Where'd he go? What? I turn around and look at her. Where didn't she stand there with her hands up, looking down into the valley, into the forest? Where'd he go? Who? Where'd the monkey? Where'd he go? And so she's a 3-year-old. She had a sighting, and then again the same spot about 2 months later, same spot, same situation happened. And yeah, for a 3-year-old, she's not going to say Yowie or Dooligal or Bigfoot or Sasquatch. For a 3-year-old, it's a monkey.
Yeah.
When she got a bit older and she could comprehend it, and look, we're just talking about this the other night with her. And now she's old, she can comprehend it. You ask her, she's, I remember. Where do you go? Oh, he stepped behind a tree. And do you remember what colour? A really dark brown, she said. So she still remembers it. So, I mean, and my wife, I mean, she knows the stuff's going on again. Like she's heard them walking down the back of the property as well. And then you step into a whole another realm with the ET side. I mean, like I've had a lot of ET stuff kicking on most of my life. I didn't realise it was ETs until later in life. And then since then, a couple of years ago, I got into CE5 meditation, which is human-initiated contact. So you follow the protocols and do that, and stuff starts happening there with big golden orbs flying over the house and other strange lights in the sky. And then next thing you know, you're watching TV, you decide to go to bed and you turn the TV off, and to get upstairs, you got to go left through the kitchen, then do a 180 behind the wall where the TV's on, and then do another 180 and go upstairs, and the dogs are snoring on the floor, and you step over the dog as you turn to go up the stairs. In the reflection of the back window, you see something in the kitchen through that glass reflection. You then look back around, and lit up by this massive salt lamp we have is this ET figure silhouette standing there looking at you. And then you get the shits with yourself, because instead of going and saying hello, you go, okay, and you walk up the stairs and go to bed. So some heavy regret with that. And then also other ETs where I've suddenly woken up at 4:30 in the morning, sat up in bed, and you catch a glimpse of one looking in the bedroom door directly at you. The wife woke up one night, I was still asleep, woke up one night and saw a ET being standing over the top of me. And she said that she woke herself up a bit, am I actually seeing this? And once she did that, she's, yep, I'm actually seeing an ET being standing over Gary while he's asleep. And she went back to sleep. I was like, yeah, well, I think you got put back to sleep. You weren't meant to go to sleep. Sorry, you weren't meant to wake up. You got put back to sleep. So, I mean, like, all these kind of things, yeah, my whole life's been full of paranormal as such. Even the point where, like, with the ET side, like, one tried to yank me out of bed one night, which, unlucky for them, it didn't work. You always feel when they're in the house, the energy in the house gets real thick and heavy. But yeah, it's. I mean, my wife, my daughter, like, they're part of our world too, our world as well, mate. So it's and luckily they're perfectly okay with it. My mother's okay, the parents are okay. So luckily, 90% of my circle, they're all on board.
That's good. You definitely have to have like a support group that backs you up with it, because it sucks whenever everyone's like, dude, you're crazy. Like, those things aren't out there and you're all alone and you don't have anyone to back you. And it's just kind of nice to have a few positive people in your life that are like, okay, get out there and be safe, be careful. Yeah, we might get you.
Well, that's the thing, man. Like, it's if someone doesn't believe, that's not my problem. That's their problem.
No. Yeah. But it's just nice to have people you can talk to about it.
Yeah, for sure. And that I mean, that's all. Like, yeah, again, that's why I'll just openly talk to people about this, because again, there are so many people out there who have had some kind of an experience in their life, but they've got no one to talk to, or they don't want to talk about because they've got the fear of ridicule.
Yeah,
And then
I don't
once they
need
find
validation.
yeah,
Like, I don't need people to validate it for me. I just think it's cool to have someone to talk back and forth about. Like, yo, I found this. Like,
yeah, definitely.
what do you think this
Definitely.
structure means? But yeah,
Yeah.
as far as what I seen, like, I don't care if someone says like, I don't believe you.
Yes.
That don't exist.
Yeah,
I'm like,
exactly.
okay, I know what I seen, and I don't need you to tell me that. You know
Yeah.
what it was.
Well, what I find these days is, when I get asked these questions, my usual immediate answer is that, well, we're at the point now that we don't discuss their existence. We are
Mhm.
far past their existence. Now we discuss who are they, where are they, how do we make contact. And usually when I say that to a non-believer, you see the cogs in their head start ticking, and they're like, oh, and then then all of a sudden they become interested in what else is going on. But again, like, I'm not saying they have to believe, but I find when I say that, yeah, we're far past talking about their existence, so on. The conversation usually takes a lot more positive turn.
Right. You've you know that they exist. You've researched it. Now you're like on tier 3. You're trying to make contact. So
Yeah,
you're way past
exactly
trying to
right, mate.
convince people. Yeah.
Exactly right. That's why I've got no issue talking to people that don't believe, because I mean, as you said, we don't need to prove it to anyone because we already know. So why are we wasting our energy and mental stress to try and convince these people who are just going to disregard us anyway? So if they don't believe, cool, no worries, have a good day.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So is it cool if I share the photos that you sent to me on Instagram on this video?
100%, 100%,
Okay, cool.
definitely 100%. Even on saying that, with those photos, that is one thing that I've been trying for years to try and correlate with Australia and the US. So all the tree structures, X markers, stick markers, all that kind of stuff, I find there's a heavy correlation. The only thing I can't find a close enough comparison is the stick symbols and glyphs. I've spoken to many high profile researchers over there and whatnot, and or even like with podcasts with Cliff and Bobo and Bigfoot Beyond, the Paranormal Portal, and Will Jebning, and that I haven't found anyone yet who in the US who has the same stick symbols or glyphs that we find here. They will find some, but they don't have the intricate elements that we have here. For whatever reason, I don't know, but that's probably the one thing that I can't correlate between Australia and the US yet.
Okay. Well, I found a lot of structures and rock stacks. If you ever need some photos or any information, or if you just want to send some stuff and ask if there's any comparison, feel free to reach out anytime. I'd
Awesome.
definitely be up
I
for it.
appreciate that, mate.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Appreciate that. That's cool.
It seems like the United States, Canada, Alaska, and Australia seem to have like a lot of activity. Now, if there's other areas that I don't know about, as far as like Thailand or Indonesia, I'm not sure because you don't really hear people talk about it in those countries. But it seems like, yeah, Australia and North America seems to be like the most prominent activity in the world.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like there are beings in New Zealand as well. I'm going to butcher this, but it's like the Mohawi man, I think they call it. Again, I'm going to butcher this again, but it's like Moehai or something like that. Mohawi man. That's their version of Dulagal Sasquatch. In Fiji, they call it the Leka, Leka. Now the Leka, from what I've been told, like our Junjidi. So our Junjidi are the smaller beings. So we have a couple of different ones. The Junjidi, they only get to like maybe 4 to 4.5 foot tall the most. Very mischievous little shits. Not as many reports as the big fellas though, but it seems like in Fiji, the leka, that's their version of our junjidi. They live amongst the mangroves a fair bit. A very good friend of mine, who's a big massive Fijian bloke, T. He's said, yeah, we used to get told by our grandparents, don't go in the mangroves because of the leka. And another guy I interviewed a while ago on the Gold Coast, he was on his way home in his WRX about, I think it was like 11 o'clock at night, travelling up this particular road to the north side of Mount Tamboran, which again is the northern mountain of Beachmont where I am. Mm-hmm. And he saw what he thought was a kangaroo on the side of the road. And he said, like, with his WRX, it's got a big body kit on it. So he slowed right down because he didn't want to hit a roo and bust up his body kit. And when he slowed down, he put his high beams on, and this kangaroo then stood up on two legs and hauled ass across the road in front of him. So I was having a chat to him about that, and then he grew up in Fiji. I think he's like mixed race. But he grew up in Fiji, and then he's the one that also went on to tell me about the leka, Leka, that live in the mangroves.
I've heard of that before. Someone emailed me about that creature. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, like, there are other countries. I mean, like, we've had reports. I know Sarah from Yowie Central, she's had reports from the UK as well. So there are a lot of countries, but as you said, it is those primary countries, Australia, US, Canada, that they are the front runners in this subject.
Yeah. I feel like maybe in the future our paths will cross, and maybe we'll like do some research. A lot of people ask me when I'm going to Australia. I'm like, I don't know where to go. I don't know where I'll stay.
I'll take you some places, mate. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, I got a friend that listens to the channel. She's from Queensland. I'm sure she'd let me stay at her place.
Oh, mate, there's, mate, once you put the feelers out, there'll be a lot of people probably putting their hand up to help you out. And the amount of locations that you can go to, I mean, the way that Australia is built, we don't have the vast forests that stretch on forever like you guys do. But we do have we still do have a lot of dense forest and bushland, and still a lot of it. A lot of it is also hard to get to. But there are places like where Josh is from. There are places up there. I mean, with a lot of high activity, and there's still reports to this day coming out of the Sunshine Coast hinterland. But others like the whole east coast of Australia, there's plenty of activity kicking off.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. And I definitely want to check it out one day, and hopefully run into the Yowie. I feel like if I go there, we'll experience some activity, or get lucky and maybe film one or make contact.
Oh, mate, it's even just a humbling experience just to be out camping and just to hear them doing what they're doing, even if they just snap a branch or tree knock or something in the distance. I even just love that minimal experience as well. You know, it's very, very humbling to be out there and just have that. But then obviously, when things kick off and it is, vocals and tree branches and stomping and everything's going hell for leather. It's good fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's nothing better than when the Sasquatch or the Yowie come up to your campsite and you can hear them walking around, breaking branches and vocalizing in the night. It's definitely an eerie feeling.
It's incredible. Even after like Buck got that day, the infamous bucking footage. Dean and Shannon went to bed, because we sleep in hammocks, which freaks people out, big sausage rolls. So they've jumped in the hammocks and gone to sleep. Buck and I stayed up till about, I think it was 3 o'clock or something like that, just talking about the night. And we could hear them walking around the camp. Like, they're over there, then they're over there, then they're over there. You hear a branch break over there. But there was nothing negative about it. Like that whole night, that whole experience, there's not one bit of negativity about it. There's no rock throwing, no stick throwing, no screaming, no yelling at anyone. I mean, even to the point where when Buck was watching him. So I guess I guess you can blame me for that footage ending when it did, because while Buck's taking that footage, he's on the radio at the same time going, yeah, I've got two of them on camera and so on. I then said over the radio, would you like me to come up there and back you up just in case, because you're up there by yourself and you've got two locations with them hanging around. So do you want me to come up there just say you're not there by yourself? He's like, yeah, no worries. So he's getting that infamous footage, and I grabbed my thermal camera. I left camp, but I didn't turn lights on. I didn't turn any lights on. I just walked into the darkness. And next thing, Buck said, stop. So what happened was, from what he could see on the camera, which unfortunately the focus wasn't as sharp as it could have been, he's watched them look at him. They've noticed me leave camp. They look at me, look at him, and that's where the footage ended, because they moved off. So that footage could have been bigger, better, longer, but I guess that's my fault for leaving camp. I should have stayed there and just let him do his thing.
Yeah. It seems like I've noticed this a lot of times, like whenever I'm walking with someone researching an area, when we split off, like they'll wood knock or you get some type of activity. I think it throws them off.
Yeah. I think it does, but then they also, because they're obviously very aware of what's going on. I think it's also notification that the situation has changed. So it's a notification to other beings in the area, or maybe when you did split off, there's other beings in those directions. So they've done that tree knot to let them know that you're now heading in two different directions as well. Which we've had similar situations like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really cool that the activity lines up with what's going on here. So I feel like these things were global at one point. It's the same deal, the same phenomenon.
Definitely. I mean, like obviously, we've got two different types with the Junji and the Dulagal, the smaller and the bigger. I don't personally follow too much about the other different types. Apart from maybe, I mean, the Aboriginal people who speak about the two different types of big fellas, where one's more human type and one's more Aboriginal. Oh, my bad, edit that bit out.
More primate.
Yeah, exactly. More animal. And there's an area called the Pilliga down New South Wales, next state south. I think if anything, that's where the more animal species come from. I think they're similar, but they're not too closely related to the more human type. I mean, like when people talk about like 4 different types and that kind of stuff, for the most part, I believe it's like you and I. You're American, I'm Australian. I think it's more just like that. So we have our little differences, our similarities, unless there is a vast, big difference, like the more animalistic type ones in the Pilliga, which is one area that you don't want to go into too much or hang around too much, because they do have a very negative history in the Pilliga with the big fellas down there. We just recently finished filming the documentary Dark Truths 2 up the Daintree up in North Queensland, and one of the filmmakers, Attila, he and another mate were down the Pilliga filming research a while ago, and he said that they come in from multiple angles, barking like big vicious dogs. And he's like, they actually feared for their life for that situation. So I do feel that if with that particular off branch, the more animalistic ones, I think that's where you're going to have the negative interactions. Whereas the more human type ones, they're a little more switched, a little more smarter, a little more cognitive. So I think that's when you're going to have a more neutral to positive encounter.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting for sure. And again, it lines up with what's going on here. There's like Sasquatch or different types of Sasquatch, and then up north or I mean, I guess anywhere in the United States, they talk about little people, like little pygmy people.
Yeah.
I've never seen
Yeah.
one, but I hear stories about it.
Yeah, it's very common here as well, mate. Like I talk about the other types of beings as well, like stick people that look like sticks with legs, that slip in between the cracks in between rocks and that kind of things, and go into caves and whatnot. I spoke to a guy the other day. I was there doing a job, and he was telling me about he was walking on a certain track not too far from here, and he looked up and saw this being sitting on the branch of a tree. And I'm thinking he's talking about Junji, the smaller type of Yowie. He goes, no, it's just like a little man with like greeny grey skin, and not an ET, just like a little man, about 3 to 4 foot tall, and sitting up a branch, and then freaked out when this guy noticed him, and then he said also this haze covered him over, and he disappeared. Make of that what you will. I've never heard of that type of experience before. But yeah, there's a fair bit going on, a lot of stories. I guess it's trying to sift through the genuine and the ones where people just want to get some attention.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Gary. Well, I think that pretty well covers the podcast. I think we could talk for days about this activity. And
mate, we could. I said, like, I'm going to go to work, man.
yeah, I understand. And like myself, I could talk about my experiences, but it would take hours and hours and hours. So if you research as much as you say you have, I'm sure you could write a whole book about it, maybe a few different books.
That's why my wife hates me when she's with me and I start talking about this kind of thing with someone who's interested as well. She gets the shits because she knows that she's going to have to physically intervene and split us up, because otherwise we'll be where we are for hours just talking. Like, yeah, I mean, yeah, when you get two people like us who have connected like this about this particular topic, about this subject, and the correlation and the interests in what each other have to say, we'll be sitting here a week. I mean, it'll just keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm glad we became friends and we got connected through Josh, who I recently interviewed from Australia. So, like I said, I feel like we're going to run into each other again in the future. And I think it'd be cool to do some research one day. You never know. We might meet up.
Awesome. I'm keen, brother. I'm keen.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, definitely stay safe out there in the brush. Protect yourself spiritually, mentally, and watch out for like any venomous snakes. And yeah, just keep doing what you're doing, because it sounds like it's worked out pretty well for you.
Yeah, I appreciate it, mate. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for coming on the show. And if you ever want to talk again or have me on your channel, let me know, and I'll be glad to do that.
Awesome, mate. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. You have an excellent day.
Cheers, mate. You too. Talk to you soon.
All right. Take care, man.
Bye, mate. See you, mate.
All right. Yep. See ya.